Look who's back at it again. I think it's time to weigh in on Spider-Man 2. I played all three of Sony's Spider-Man games, and this one has to be the one that left me asking, is that it? This Spider-Man game was lacking, and I think after watching many reviews and giving it some thought, I think I have a reason for why this game felt so hollow. For starters, let's talk about the beginning of the game. They fumble the most basic of Spider-Man scenarios, the old get out of class to save the day play. They made this scene awkward and unbelievable. I mean, why would anyone ask for help to use the bathroom? Peter was going to lose his job that day one way or another. They should have used this scenario to set the stage for Miles struggling with school and being a Spider-Man. Miles should have got to the door and said, "Later, losers," and started to ditch class, and while Peter goes after him yelling, "Not today, kid." Peter would have lost his job anyway, but the excuse would have been better, and would have set up what Miles' struggle should have been. Miles should have struggled with the balance of school and Spider-Man duties, but instead we got him working with his friends as Spider-Man and worrying about a paper he never finished and ultimately didn't matter. Like honestly, it was a 500-word essay. Most seniors should be able to write one of those by the time you finish high school. The whole dynamic between Miles and Peter really didn't pan out in this game. I mean, the game really suffers from too many main character syndrome. And trust me, I know a little something about a game having too many main characters. I know it's an unlikely parallel, but the Mega Man X series suffers from this. X and Zero spend too much time competing for the spotlight that the game loses the plot. And it wasn't subtle, like you can always tell who the favorite was and who gets it easier in the games. But the actual main character has already earned the respect of the audience through their struggles. In this Spider-Man game, I was way more invested in Peter's stories, and I didn't really care for the subplots or Miles' missions. This may be controversial, but I liked Peter's flashbacks with him and Harry and Jameson. People complained there was no action in these segments, but I enjoyed the break from the endless wave fights and mashing the square button until I won. I grew up with these characters, and it was nice seeing them have some history together, and the segment with Jameson almost seemed like a fatherly figure giving advice to a struggling son. These segments were way more important than people give him credit for. It was great world building and character development for Harry, who was missing in the first two games. Speaking of character development, I'm not done with Miles yet. I feel like his story was lacking any real conflict. Like if he wanted revenge on Lee, then why was that never brought up in the previous two games? It's not like it's out of sight, out of mind until you see your father's killer again. In the real Spider-Man movies, Peter was always motivated by the fact that Uncle Ben was killed unjustly. And we, as the audience, didn't need to be told that. We felt that. It was evident in his actions and his sacrifices. Miles had it too easy in this game. He wasn't struggling in school, and they even stole the plot from Spider-Man No Way Home for a college entrance interview to try and give us some drama. Which didn't work. He felt like a guest character the whole time in the game, but they really did need him in there to help pad out the game. Because without the interruptions to the main plot, the game would have been over in a fraction of the time. The game's plot was dragged out to the point where it overstayed its welcome. By the time Venom was introduced, I was sick of the Black Suit Spider-Man. And normally I always cut the Black Suit Spider-Man segments too short. Not this time. Peter wasn't very bad, the suit didn't make him any stronger, and I don't think they even mentioned it could make its own webs. It was literally a costume change. And the combat didn't even change, since both characters have attacks that have specific roles, so changing the animation of the attack wasn't really an upgrade. I will give them credit though, there were a couple cool scenarios with the black suit. Like the part where the symbiote took over Peter while he was asleep. That one reminded me of Spectacular Spider-Man when the symbiote took out the Sinister Six. It was also pretty cool to have Miles fight the symbiote Spider-Man and help Peter get rid of the suit, but I don't know. There's something about that fight where it didn't really feel like Spider-Man was that much stronger having the symbiote. In this game, Peter just had too many moments where he forgot he had superhuman strength and spider sense. Kraven or a fridge should have never been worthy adversaries. A freaking fridge. And Kraven should have never been a match for him, especially with the symbiote. And then, spoilers, you get an anti-Venom suit and still technically lose a 1v1 with Venom. All that really added to my frustration with the story. So many things happen, yet nothing changes. Character goes through some traumatic event, character pulls through and overcomes, return to status quo. Or the character becomes stronger, then gets beat down so the plot can advance, then they raise the stakes, then they overcome the stakes because they tried harder in the next scene. Like, it felt like the conflict of each event could have been resolved an hour or two earlier, but they need to keep trying to one-up each event. But that's a double-edged sword. Keep raising the stakes and keep building tension, and pretty soon you'll find yourselves backed into a corner with no real resolution. And that's what we got with Spider-Man 2. A lot of build-up and no payoff. It never felt like scenes happened to advance the plot, it felt like they happened to pad the game time. Like I said before, some of the major events could have been resolved in an hour or two earlier, but then something inconvenient happens like the lizard, and we have to go track him down for like an hour. By the time I reached the end of the game, I didn't want to do any more missions or side quests because I felt like I went through enough distractions. And I really don't feel like I was missing out on much. There was only like one side mission that really mattered, and it might lead to a continuation or DLC. But I don't think I'll hold out for any continuations right now. They finally announced that New Game Plus is coming to the game, but I don't feel like button mashing square through the campaign again is really good use of my time. It's sad to see games turn out like this. I was really looking forward to this game. It got a lot of things right, but ultimately it got a lot of things wrong, and it was all because of the little things adding up. One of the big issues I saw with the story is like a lot of characters feel like they were just saying their lines at each other with no real emotional baggage or weight to them. So when push came to shove in the story, we really didn't care what happened or what got resolved because it all felt kind of forced. I know I wasn't invested in anything this game had to offer, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way, which doesn't make sense because Spider-Man has always been known for world building and characters with their own motivations explain the things that they do. But some Spider-Man titles seem to struggle with balancing this. We've seen it in many movies, and these characters and subplots get out of hand and take up too much airtime or too much game time. I feel like in order to fix this issue, we need to return to basics and focus on things that matter. And sometimes we don't need a whole textbook answer of why people do the things they do. Explain just enough and leave the rest a mystery. There needs to come a time where you respect your audience enough to fill in the gaps themselves. After all, we've seen these stories several different ways over the last several years. If you're going to give us your take on it, I would suggest keeping to the basics and not trying to overcomplicate it. The last thing you want to do is find yourself explaining to the audience what they should have felt or what really happened in a certain scene. Hopefully with the honest truth and the reception Spider-Man 2 is receiving, maybe we can see a change in the direction Sony's Spider-Man games are heading. I would like that. Spider-Man's a cool dude, and spending time with him in these games is awesome. It'd be a shame to squander that. Anyway, thanks for checking out this video. See you guys next time.